the true way that you can really say now whether you're stressed or not is by a physical examination, not by mentally if you think you're strong or not strong. You can just look at the vitals of the tongue. You can look at the vitals of, just these neck muscles. They're the first one to contract and stress. Your hairs fall down because all your follicles are clenched like that. So if we look at the body is never lying.
Namaste, hello, and welcome to Gaia Ayurveda, reconnecting with nature through Ayurveda. I'm Fern Hales, an Ayurvedic practitioner, herbal yogi, and holistic health coach. Gaia Ayurveda is a holistic health community with an aim to guide and empower you on your healing journey. This YouTube channel aims to share earth wisdom, nature intuition, and 5-element healing based on the ancient science of Ayurveda. Listen to our interviews with inspiring guests on topics from health, nutrition, and herbalism to yoga, meditation, and psychology. We discuss root cause healing, natural detoxing, and all things related to high vibrational health and body-mind-soul balance. Each episode is available on YouTube as well as your favorite podcast apps. Further information and details shared in the video can be found in the video description, as well as links to sign up to my weekly newsletter on Ayurveda, herbalism, nutrition, and natural detoxing with medicinals. So, sit back and relax with your herbal infusion, and let's jump right into this week's conversation. In this episode, we are talking to Dr. Shivani Sood about psychology and Ayurveda. Dr. Shivani is an Ayurvedic doctor and transformational coach and has worked for over 21 years in the field of Ayurveda and psychology. As a medical doctor with 42 international projects in Europe and the USA, she has an Ayurveda and Panchakarma clinic in India where she integrates the psychological aspects of healing with Ayurveda, as well as an Ayurvedic center in Poland. In this episode, we discuss the role of psychology, the mind, and nervous system as root cause factors in the development of certain illnesses and the psychosomatic aspects of disease, along with how trauma and emotions can affect health, whilst diving into some basic principles of Ayurvedic nutrition and lifestyle to balance both the mind and the body. So, welcome back to Gaia Ayurveda. Today we are talking with Dr. Shivani. And Dr. Shivani, she has a clinic that she runs with her husband in India, and she is an Ayurvedic doctor. And today we're going to focus on the psychological aspects of Ayurveda. So particularly, we're here to talk about the mind and mental and emotional imbalances. So welcome, Dr. Shivani. Thank you for being here. Could you thank you. So would you like to just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about your story?
Well, I'm so honored to share this story with you because somehow I believe like through pain and through sufferings, which obviously none of us like, we find our way in life. And classic example is me, because I was married to the man I really loved, and I was in the science which I liked. It's completely settled in 2003. But what happened to me one day is that I just woke up from the bed and gosh, I couldn't walk. I put my foot down there and I thought, did I hit something with my foot? But I just couldn't walk. And each step was painful to walk. And by the evening, my fingers were crooked. So I was like, what's going on? Because my husband just said, okay, I'll go to the clinic and you stay at home. But when he came back in the evening, I was worse. And the next day I was more worse. And obviously, we were very young practitioners back then. He had to go to the clinic to run the clinic because there were people there. And I was there at home, bedridden, a very energetic young me sitting there in pain and trying to see how to heal myself because I was in a difficult situation. And I went to a regular medicine practice and they diagnosed me for rheumatoid arthritis. And they told me that my fingers are going to stay like that for the remaining of my life. And I'm one of those unlucky people who got rheumatoid arthritis and now have to live with it. Well, I did not believe in their diagnosis. And I tried to explore the power of healing in plants and reading more about how I could heal myself. And that's when I came to the point of realizing that the way I was thinking, just the way I was thinking is every day generating stressful energy. I was accomplishing, but at the cost of burning myself down. So I started whole researching about how with Ayurveda you could actually heal the mind. Then I started to think, I had a lot of brains. So I was starting to see how I'm healing myself. And then I started to see how would I line this up for someone who is in trouble. Because I sometimes thought that when we are in trouble and when we are especially in any kind of sickness, our brains are so stressed that we're not able to receive information. And so we should be really knowing how to talk to this person who is at a completely different state than what you and we are sitting here today. And that was very interesting because I was one of those lucky people who were misdiagnosed. I did not have rheumatoid arthritis. It was a rheumatic fever where the bacteria from my throat had actually gone to my joints, and it was a wrong lab test diagnosis which made the difference. And I was put on my first dose of penicillin, which is because my level of streptococci was really, really high. And with the first injection, what I got, which was a very painful shot, my body started moving. And could you imagine how grateful I must be at this moment that I could come back? So when I came back, I really became a very insightful person. I started seeing why are the people sick rather than being this doctor who just heals the symptoms. And that's where my integration with the Western world made me realize that that world is completely different than India. And I became so passionate about doing various projects in the West and learning about the culture, learning about the people, learning about how they feel, learning about how families run in the West, how emotions are seen in the West, how pressure is seen, and how important it is to be successful, in some way or other. So that is the concept of what I'm working at today. It is to really integrate these Ayurvedic concepts, but emphasizing on what the modern society poses challenges and creating plans on how to heal people. And I'm so happy that thousands of my students have learned this from my work on how to really help people, because we all have information, right? But how to present your information to someone that he will accept in this moment of feeling hopeless and in pain. That was my mission.
And that's so fascinating what you say as well about there's the Ayurveda as a discipline and as a science and as an ancient medicine, but also translating it to the West and also in a strategy or in a structured form, which obviously, as we know, to receive any information, making it more structured, easy to digest, with routine and this pitta type energy is a lot easier for people also to take on board, especially if people have stressed and scattered minds. So that's so interesting what you're saying. So I think it's known that many Ayurvedic doctors and practitioners recognize that nowadays illnesses and disease, as you were saying, or dis-ease, manifest sometimes due to mental health related imbalances such as stress, anxiety, and something maybe we could say are general Vata disorders. And this greatly impacts on our nervous system. And particularly in the West, as you said, we have these high or fast lifestyle kind of routines in the day. We maybe don't really wake up with the sun. We wake up late, or we work late into the night. We're always going we're running on fast forward. We're the next deadline. Try to be more productive, more efficient, faster food. How can I eat less or eat in only 15 minutes or half an hour so I can do more work, which obviously is not so coherent with the Ayurveda and this natural science of really living in harmony with your body, with the cycles of nature. So is this something you'd agree with in terms of stress and anxiety and mental emotional imbalances as sometimes causing, being the root cause of illness in the body?
Yes. I think what is really important here is to see how Ayurveda sees mental sickness. First of all, there is nothing wrong in having a mental sickness or to admit that you're not mentally well. So saying that you're mentally ill. All of us would acknowledge this, that when we have a cold and when we have a cancer, in both the cases, we are diseased, right? But both are just diseases. So same thing with the mind. People are just ignoring that this exists. So the first step of healing is to admit that you're doing something which is not really healthy for your body. And that realization which comes when you understand the word stress. Stress is uncomfortable. It's an attitude, but it's also a physical state of the body. It's a body physiology, a physiology in which your systems are not working properly. Just like on a very hot day, you wore a sweater and went, and then you're hot. Your body's not working because you're overheated yourself. So stress is manifesting in the body. That's really important. And stress is a stage where we are not connected to our body. If we have a good connection with our body, there is no way we're going to end up harming it. So when we are in a stressed out stage, not only that mentally we are uncomfortable, but our body physiology is all not on the right track. And there are certain processes which are running in order to combat that. For example, some people eat a lot with stress, right? They have emotional eating disorder. Some people smoke a lot with stress. So all addictions are based on that. And why are these symptoms of anxiety and depression or any psychological sickness coming? This is a very important point. They are coming because we're not able to process our emotions. They're coming as signs from our body to ask for help. And most of the time, the Ayurvedic approach is to listen to these emotions, what they're trying to tell us, what are the messages which are inside this emotion, rather than just trying to say, okay, I'm not stressed. Because the true way that you can really say in Ayurveda you're stressed or not is by a physical examination, not by mentally if you think you're strong or not strong. You can just look at the vitals of the tongue. You can look at the vitals of just these neck muscles. They're the first one to contract and stress. Your hairs fall down because all your follicles are clenched like that. So if we look at the body is never lying. But many times mentally, we are really being trained to say it's okay. And this is the West. We have to be strong. You have to be strong. You can't cry. Whereas crying is a very releasing process, right? So the reason why we have
the body crying, yes. We're detoxing emotions, we're letting out tears, like it's a biological function.
But you see, that's the same point, right? About really not accepting that mentally you're not well. And it shouldn't be a taboo subject about talking about stress and emotions and anxiety. We should be very open, because most of these stories, what we are facing alone, doesn't matter what happened in your life, is something many of us have experienced.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so, and I think what you just said is so fascinating and also important. As you said, it's to normalize mental health imbalances, and I think it's something that we can see, as you said, across certain societies and cultures. For example, maybe more globalized, where we have these very high productive, high stress work or lifestyle, but also globally on the planet, and normalizing it to say, okay, it's okay to feel up one day and down another day, and actually just learning tools and techniques in order to bring ourselves into balance, but also owning that's okay, and having self-love and self-respect, that it's okay that I feel down.
Yes. And as a woman, I think we should really accept this, that we are having mood swings and changes, how it goes with us, and we should not really try to push ourselves, because this is also like our intuitive and creative side. So it's very important to recognize stress and listen to it and be relaxed about your attitude in life, because otherwise the consequence is sickness like what I had. But luckily I am the one who came back. Many people do not come out of this sickness, and being a doctor, I have seen a lot of people in pain with a lot of wealth or, things, but when the health is not good, nothing's really paying off.
Health is wealth, as we say in English.
It is. Yes.
Health is wealth. So, so that brings me to my next question. In the modern age as well, I think there's a lot of healing work going on in general. We are becoming more accustomed and more comfortable talking about our emotions, especially males as well. That we did have difficult upbringings, or we've had difficult relationships with siblings, parents. And this brings me to, talking about trauma and healing our past wounds. And it's known that we can also have epigenetic trauma that can pass down from previous generations. And this is being analyzed more and more and proven scientifically. So do you think that there's also a role that trauma has in creating disease and imbalance?
Definitely, yes. So here let's put in science. So the brain has two parts, the front part of the brain and then the amygdala. The front part of the brain, which is the pre-cortex, is responsible for our logic response and also for our reasoning, for us to control our impulses, not damage ourselves, But the emotional center of the brain, which is like quite nut-like amygdala structure, is quite emotionally responsive. Each neuron has the capacity of storing at least a biology book of information inside each neuron, and you know how many neurons we have. So we are capable of storing a lot of information inside our head. Now, when trauma hits, our fight and flight response is really triggered. And this response, once it's triggered, to bring it back to the normal stage needs quite an effort. So many of us are traumatized, and because of this, we are sensitive. And this is actually called as a Vata imbalance. In Vata imbalance, you even don't hear correctly. You keep changing, you do too many things, you don't complete things because you're running and running in stress for something which you don't know even what it is. So traumas play a very important role because the amygdala is active. And when amygdala is active, there's quite a lot of emotional outburst. I saw a picture in neurochemistry about emotional outburst, how it looks like when there's an anger outburst or a crying outburst. It just looks like a bomb blew inside your head. All your neuron system, everything is shaking. So in this time, it's really important to accept that you're not okay and that you have been triggered and now you're in an emotionally imbalanced stage. Now, Ayurveda speaks about this stages as calling it Rajas and Tamas. So Tamas, which is the stage of darkness, is considered many times in Ayurveda as a bad stage because everybody is like, you shouldn't be tamas. But the point is that darkness is very essential for growth. Right? If inside the ground, only then the plant comes out. So darkness is very essential for growth. And this trauma has made you the person who you are.
Definitely.
But you need to be conscious about the stage you are in. And with all respect to all the psychiatry, but in Ayurveda, we see this only as a stage, not as a label. So you always have the possibility to identify the stage, understand how you have ended up here, and just reverse it. And that's where when you add in a strategy and a herb, and herbs also have different categories to which they can help because there's a lot of research going on in the field of Ayurvedic medicine. For example, now extract medicines are really good because they're like the modern super bombs of healing. They're really powerful enough to produce effect. And multiple extracts are being produced in Ayurveda to help people along with this. But really, it is important to respect and understand that the life you have lived is validated.
That is so powerful, I think. And as I mentioned, I'm undergoing Gestalt therapy training, and within this, witnessing and acknowledging the trauma and not rejecting it as something bad, and not necessarily, it's not to blame the people or the relationships or the situations we were brought up in which that occurred, but just witnessing it, acknowledging it, and accepting it to some extent, obviously through certain processes, and everyone's time is different. Some people can accept things a lot quicker than others. But this is key, is actually validating, as you said, witnessing and having a support system to help through that. And actually, that brings me on to my next question, what we just said of validating, witnessing, or almost metabolizing and digesting emotions. So I know, obviously, we talk about routine, we've talked about routine, strategy, all these kind of pitta qualities, which helps us to metabolize things in life. And we have sayings in English such as she or he is not digesting something very well, or they need a moment to digest, no?
Yeah.
So, and when we talk about emotions and experiences, and we know that one of the important pillars of Ayurveda is having a correct Agni, or correct digestion. But this is in terms of your metabolic potential and digestive fire on a physical level, but also on this mental and emotional level. So I think correcting the Agni, I just wanted to ask you what do you think about Agni in terms of digesting life's experiences and events, and whether you think Agni can impact a person's Agni can impact on this. And also, my next question, like vice versa, do you think that stress, anxiety, all these emotions, so-called unwanted emotions, can also impact on a person's Agni?
Very good question. You see, what is Agni? It is one of the primary way we feel ourselves, isn't it? Because the first thing what a child feels, what is the first thing which a child feels? Is hunger. Right? So it is the way to feel our body. So it's for sure that if your Agni is not working good, or you don't feel hungry, and you don't feel, that you have not eaten, or you've eaten too much, something is wrong there, right? So this is the first feeling. And when we see psychology and Ayurvedic psychology also, we're always linking it back to how the human race developed. So eating was one of the primary thing, and feeling hungry was more important, because everybody has different kinds of need. I might do good with just one piece of bread. You might need four, depending on, what your type is and how much you would like to do. So there's a lot of importance of Agni. So that is our second brain, and through the vagus nerve, it is connected to the brain in a very strong way. That means that anytime we are not happy, then we feel a kind of hunger, and that's called as an emotional hunger, right? Emotional hunger is very different than a physical hunger. You have cravings for certain food. In fact, I'm writing a program about this, about healing emotional eating, because I believe a lot of women are caught in this topic, which is actually not a topic. It's just a way of healing yourself that you are in this topic, but it has become the topic of their life, the 5 kilos they don't lose or something like that, right? So this is very important that you realize this, that the gut is sending messages to the brain. So you shouldn't control eating. You should eat what you like to eat, but with a balance. Now, that's why we are saying about digestion, because the stomach and the brain have very strong connection. Because if you don't eat, then obviously the body will not survive, and the brain will do everything in order to make the body survive. So that's why the digestion procedure is a very important procedure of processing emotions as well. And all the emotions have impact on our gut. Mostly you see also the solar plexus in the energetic world it's here around the gut. So this is also the energetic center of happiness. And we can see this, there's so many people, happiness is food, isn't it? Like if they get a good meal, what they like to eat, they're like, what will I eat this evening? So that's where it is really important to understand the process of what the old proverbs are always based scientifically. The only thing is we did not understand, what the scientific background was about.
Yes, and that's really fascinating. That these old proverbs, we say them and we talk about them, but we don't necessarily realize that they're really connected to our digestion, to our emotions. And that also brings me to another point, and what you spoke about the solar plexus, and that really in Ayurveda, Agni, the digestive power, your ability to digest even food, but any information you put in your body is key to health. And this is the first thing that we aim to correct. And I've noticed in people that I have in consultations or people around me that, as you said, if people aren't able to digest things or certain emotions, or maybe they're even ignoring certain emotions, and they don't have perhaps a connection to their own fire, internal fire, in terms of their own creativity, their own will in life, this willpower, this confidence that comes from this area, this solar plexus area, it can also have kind of a spiral effect, or it's kind of a chicken and egg effect on lifestyle in addictions or certain habits that we have. So I just wanted to come on. It was a question I had later, but it's really interesting, and I think it's quite in line here in terms of a person's purpose in life, or dharma, and how this can affect our mental, emotional well-being. So we talk about how nowadays, finding your purpose, or maybe not just your purpose, but really enjoying, what you do in life, your job, your daily, what you do in your daily life, can really help in your well-being. And so I just wanted to ask if you feel that there might be a link between, or if you've seen a manifestation of illness and this dis-ease when a person is not necessarily in line and able to use their daily fire to create, to manifest.
Well, so your question here is about the Dharma, or
Dharma and purpose.
Purpose. So you mean the Agni and the Dharma connection? Are you talking about the Agni and the Dharma connection?
Yes. Okay. Generally, yes.
Yes, see, what happens is like the purpose of the Dharma is to serve, right? And to have a vision. Now we can already see that, how the roots are powerful because they're connected with the earth, and how the leaves are fragile because they're not connected with anything, and how just the wind can blow it away. So when we have a Dharma, we're very strongly connected to the land we live on, in the world we live on, with the people we live on. We feel this sense of belonging. And this sense of belonging is this is again one of our primal needs, like sense of eating, right? So they are very connected in this way. Sense of belonging, when we feel, and we all want to be belonged, right? Like that's why when we are coming from families which have issues, we are looking for friends whom we can belong, or we're looking for love where we can start finding ourselves. So belonging is also a human nature. And that's where, when you have your dharma and your purpose, you start to feel belong because you're spreading what you have. Years before, when I was talking to somebody, when I was having I have a very clinical life, and working in Europe and doing projects was my regular thing. Around 2017, I started reflecting. I said, I have done so much of work, but how can this work benefit all the people? Because I have a lot of knowledge from working with the West and talking so deeply, because I have a history of doing 12 consultations with one person to improve the quality of life. So it's really like a deep work what I do with people, not a short one. So then what should I do with all this information? And I said to one of my friend, and she laughed at me. She said, there is no such thing. You're earning well. You don't need to do all this. This is only some concept behind. But somewhere I knew that I had a purpose on this planet. And the purpose was to create systems through which people can study what I have learned from my practice and help other people. So you see how the focus, I still am in a good position with my clinic, but what I have learned now, I have Shivani over the Poland, I have Shivani over, then we are teaching how to really talk to the people and help them. So that's the purpose. So that makes me happy, and happiness improves the gut, right? So we're all blessed by our purpose back, because we're giving, and more than that, we're receiving so much of love. And love absolutely opens and calms down your body.
Wow, yes, that's amazing, as you say. And is brain or mind gut connection is so important, and happiness, in terms of our hormones, our serotonin levels, these happy hormones that we synthesize, just being in that state every single day of feeling like you're doing something, or feeling that you're providing or serving society, is so important. And actually, talking about the body again, and how kind of the mind, emotions can have an impact and manifest in the body in illness, I wanted to come back to stress and Vata imbalances, because I heard previously in some of the content you put out, you were talking about stress in terms of like an infection, and how chronic stress can be almost a sort of infection, no? And so I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about how chronic stress can impact on the body physiologically.
Yes. So, I was speaking about this amygdala triggered response, and that's what happens in Vata. So, when the amygdala response is triggered, then there are two modes. There is the flight mode and there's the fright mode. So, when you're in a flight mode, that's Vata, and when you're in a fight mode, this is Pitta. So, you're starting to defend yourself and cut yourself from all your responsibility and put it on others. So when Vatas are having an emotional tendency, and I have to tell you this, that I find Vata people really beautiful because of their powers of creativity, intuition, because of their power to love, be emotional. This is such a gift to the world. It would be really boring Pitta world like an army if there would be only Pittas there. So Vatas bring light to the world. But the point is they don't realize that because they are constantly in emotional frights. So the thing about the fright is that even with the scientific research, we know this, that even your sensory perceptions change with stress. So I might be telling you something, but with your Vata imbalance, you would hear this in a completely different way. So I might tell you, well, there's no more space for you to stay in my clinic. And you might hear it like, I am not wanted in this clinic, because you're like so hurt inside that you're pushed and you're rejected. So this is our internal perceptions, which are Vata, and then the world looks like a scary place. Because a lot of movies, lots of news, all of them are triggering fear in human beings. And what really is important as the opposite of this fear is to have trust. Trust is something which really changes and moves people. And trust is something which comes when you're able to get out of this flight and fright mode. And that's where, in simple Ayurvedic step, we're talking about a Vata balancing, not only of the body, but of the mind.
Yes, it's so interesting how both are connected. No, in Ayurveda, I mean, the basis is that it's a holistic science. Everything is connected. The mind and body are not separate. And I just wanted to just bring up my own history because I have also gone under chronic stress and I've suffered from candida overgrowth, parasite infections, PCOS also. And it took me a long time to learn and really piece together the puzzle that a history of trauma in the family, a history of, trauma, culture, kind of high levels of stress that had been a repeated habit in my body were kind of triggering this high level of cortisol I had in the body the whole time, this continual, as you said, flight or fight mode that I'd been operating in, which was really also then suppressing my immune system. And it was just this circle effect. And really through Ayurveda and piecing together all the parts of the puzzle, as I said, that it's balancing the mind, finding the root cause that can also be found in emotions, that can also be found in the mind, that triggers emotions, that triggers certain sensations and then certain physical reactions in the body, really helped me to, it's been the best healing system of, these ancient science and medicine that I have found so far. And then that also brings me on to my next question, because one part of my experience as well, growing up in the UK and in the West in particular, it's very much part of our culture, drinking and alcohol, and even maybe substance abuse to some extent, But even at a young age, I got into the culture of drinking quite a lot, especially at university. And I felt, some of this peer pressure. And actually at university, I suffered from anxiety and depression. And I remember going to my counselor, which is kind of a therapist in the UK, and actually thinking, oh, they're not asking me about my diet. They're not asking about my lifestyle. And when I'd gone out and had a drink, and the next day I felt horrible, and I'd get up and I'd do sport. And I think just to like digest these toxins in the body, that was like one thing that helped me. But then that's when I really realized, oh, this is really due to the alcohol that I'm putting in my body. And when I've cut it out and not been drinking for many years now, I feel so much more balanced mentally and emotionally. So I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you think alcohol and kind of our addiction to certain things that we put in our body impacts our mental health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, first of all, what you spoke about, that this moment when you were questioning yourself, I believe this is one of the most powerful moments we have. And we should really listen to this inner voice, which is questioning us. Whether you're in, like you said, in a doctor's place and you're wondering why they have no idea about their diet, you should ask these questions, because questions are the way to change this world. Otherwise, we all put in systems which we don't question. So what is really important is to question the way things have been set for us in the society, and drinking is one of them, right? Like it was necessary to relax in the past because people were physically working hard. Alcohol relaxes the muscles. There was a role there, right? And the British climate and the British environment of how much work was needing to be done in Britain. So there was a lot of hard work to be done. And so it was really important to find some numbing agent that people could use when they were physically working hard. And now what's happening is that we're not physically working hard, we're mentally working. We're mentally creating all these things in the brain. And that's why alcohol, instead of a physical relaxing substance, has become like a mentally relaxing substance. And that's where the danger is, because we're not able to contemplate our emotions and we can just numb it through alcohol. So it's really important to understand the tradition. And even there's a research on, smoking after working whole day in the fields, and that no nicotine damage comes because you were out in the nature and working. And you're learning patience. So you were smoking with patience itself. And now if you see the people smoking, you can already sense it out that they are anxious and they're just puffing, to calm themselves down. So you see how the traditional thing changed other side, because we just changed the way we work. How many of us are physically working 10 or 12 hours a day? And there's a whole lot of section in this in India, and those sections have no mental problems. They have physical problems. So when alcohol is being used as a mental, to make your mind silent, and really you're not learning any ways of processing your emotion, that's where the danger lies in the society. But if you have a half glass of wine and you feel guilt because you drank alcohol, that's not right. Because substances are not, Ayurveda always says nothing is good or bad, it's how you use it. Right? That's the Ayurvedic concept. Remove your judgment, see why you need it. And hence the whole society with UK had this change from physical work to, mental work now. And thereby there are so many issues with alcohol in the society.
Yes. And yeah, that's super interesting, as you say, the historical perspective and also the changing economy, the changing society. And I think not just in the UK, obviously, and I know you work in Poland and in other countries in Europe, all these cold countries, northern countries, where we very much relied on alcohol, as you said, because it's this acidic drink. It's a muscle relaxant. It's pitta, it has a pitta quality, therefore it's going to relax your nervous system. But also I feel that historically, perhaps, and it depends the culture in Europe, but it wasn't used in excess. Now people use it kind of in excess to disconnect even from certain things, to numb out certain things. But it's a bit bittersweet in a way, because the more you do that, the more, as we just spoke about, needing the darkness to evolve, sometimes having the trauma, because it brings you into like greater knowing and greater awareness and understanding. But sometimes if you go too much into it, actually the things that we're pushing down come back even stronger, which is
exactly. And that's the danger with our society moving more to not being in the nature, because look at this, like how fast everything is just so fast, right? We want something, we swipe our credit card, we have it there. And we want to eat something, we order it, and Swiggy brings it back to our home and it's inside our house, whatever we wished for.
Yes.
But past, our interactions were more with the nature, isn't it? So we were in the nature, we were waiting for plants to grow, then the food came, then we got something. So we are learning and engaging with patience when we are in the nature, versus our today's world is like, and there it is, so this is where, when we don't get like this, we are lost. And alcohol seems like such a strong substance to kind of give it to you, at least on the imaginary way.
Yes, and it was interesting what you said, just to reiterate that alcohol, well, no, not alcohol, but like there is fermented medicines in Ayurveda, which have this acidic quality, Atava, I think it is, which so they are almost like in Western herbalism, we do actually infuse like alcohols or say vodka, or to make tinctures with herbal medicine. So we have there is this in Ayurveda, but it's very much used for just people with high Vata imbalances. So really, really altered nervous system, as you mentioned. So that just brings me off up to a couple more questions. So I also know that you have a Ayurvedic clinic and Panchakarma center. And one thing that I've also realized in my own work and in consultations is actually helping people as well implement kind of physical detox plans on a physical level helps to also balance the mind on an emotional and mental level, in terms of like allowing us to detox toxins in the body that might be like stuck based on emotions and past traumas and things. Obviously, I'm not saying this is the only medicine in a way or only remedy, but I just wondered if you, in your opinion, in your experience, I think that doing a panchakarma or detoxing the body can also have an impact on balancing the mind.
Well, that's how we heal the mind, right? Like when everything is in the mind has no form. Mind can just change its form. Mind can just change the way of thinking. And that's where when you use conventional psychology, many times you feel better, but then you see you're back in problem because the mind changed its way of thinking. So when you start to heal to the body, and I told you this earlier, that instead of saying you're stressed or you're not stressed, just ask your body, look at your body, and you'll find signs of stress, and then you are stressed. For me, it has happened 100 times, and I said, it's not a problem. I'm totally fine. And my body is like, no, you're going to rest now. Right. So it's about our, because I'm a very passion driven person. So here in the clinic in India, we have like the healing system. We have a clinical setup. It's not a resort setup. And a doctor is constantly present. My husband is a clinical practitioner who is looking into the physical aspect of the treatment. And as a team, I look into the psychological aspect of the treatment. So we kind of combine in order to give results to our client. And it's really important how each part is really important, and to create a strategy of healing the person. But the first step in healing is always the willingness to accept that you need to change yourself. Right? If we need to ask ourselves all this question, like if we are so sick, if we are not, we have so many diseases, is what we are doing, is it working for us or not? And if it's not working for you, you need to know that responsibility is always on you, because when your health is going bad, and I have been there suffering on the bed 3 months, and me, a totally active person on the bed, already if I think about it, I feel it like, oh my God, how did I cut that time? But it was essential for me to learn the importance of health. Right? So our bodies, when they're healed, it is just because the body is slower. See, if you have just a cut on the hand, also it takes time to heal, isn't it? If I'm the best doctor, also I can't seal it in one day. It will need the time. So bodies need time, and bodies, we are the CEO of our body. We need to take good decisions for our body, because all these organs are our employees. They're working for us, yes. And actually, nobody does this much work for free. Heart is beating, nervous system's conducting. I mean, we are a living miracle how we live and think. So we can't be like, it's like being not thankful towards your mother for giving you birth. So the body gave you birth, you made the mind sharper and started to rule the body. So what I have realized with my 21 years of clinical practice is, in the end, the body wins. So if you're going to push yourself too much, you're going to get a burnout. And then you will sit in the house and sit and repair that. If you will put stress all the time, you'll be depressed. The whole nervous system will be like, shut down, sit in the house, sleep, don't get out of the bed, because the body wins. So the more quicker we learn how to read these signals and how to take appropriate action for the body, that's truly emotional intelligence.